I've been working on a video about the lack of world building in Disney's Star Wars films, and I was working on a section about the importance of the opening crawl when I noticed something that I thought was funny. So I decided to take a break from that longer script and knock out a really quick one about this. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail in this video, so if you're feeling particularly impatient and just want the steak without any sides or appetizers, you can go ahead and skip to the time on the screen. Some of the stuff I say might not make as much sense to you, but you'll get the Cliff Notes version without so much of the background. So I'll give you a second to click away if you want to. And now I'm going to go into my video. Now, the opening crawl is something that Star Wars is really known for. It supplies the necessary world building for us to be dropped into this story that takes place in a setting that's totally unfamiliar to us. It lets us know who the major factions are, who the people are within the factions, and if necessary, what's happened between where we currently are in the story and what happened last. Now, this last part is really important because when the film ends, the characters are pretty much stuck where we last saw them. Some movies pick up right where they last left off. For an example of this, I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings. In these situations, any sort of crawl or narrative text or even narration isn't necessary because the characters are, for the most part, where we left them. Films like Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, on the other hand, take place many years apart, and therefore we need a bit of information to catch up to what's happened in the world since we last left it. In Star Wars, this is important because time passes between almost all of the films. In fact, Disney just released a new timeline that shows exactly where everything is within the Star Wars timeline. And as you can see, there's a lot of time that passes between most of the films, except for The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, which have been said to happen within days, if not hours of each other. This opening crawl allows us to catch up to where the story's progressed in the time we've been away from it. But it also cuts out unnecessary plot that we don't really need to see. It allows us to be present during the biggest events of the galaxy without having to sit through the everyday politics and decisions in between. We get to see the destruction of the Death Star and then move straight to the prolonged assault on the Hoth Rebel base. We don't have to sit through the time spent planning, searching, running. We get the most important things and are able to skip the fluff that can be explained in just a few sentences with a crawl. Let's look at a couple and you'll see what I mean. Let's go ahead and throw A New Hope on there. We'll start with that. It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, Rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agents, Princess Leia races home aboard her starship, custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy. And just like that, we know that there's a civil war, there's an evil empire, there's rebels who have just won their very first victory. We know that there's this armored space station called the Death Star, that Leia's running away from the Empire at this moment. We're dropped right into the action, knowing right away who is who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, what the stakes are. It gives you the world-building information you need right away to understand what's going on. Now let's check out Attack of the Clones. This one will be a little different because it's the second movie in its respective trilogy. There is unrest in the Galactic Senate. Several thousand solar systems have declared their intentions to leave the Republic. This separatist movement, under the leadership of the mysterious Count Dooku, has made it difficult for the limited number of Jedi Knights to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. Senator Amidala, the former Queen of Naboo, is returning to the Galactic Senate to vote on the critical issue of creating an army of the Republic to assist the overwhelmed Jedi. See, this one's an even better example. We left off after The Phantom Menace, knowing that Anakin would be trained by Obi-Wan, and that's pretty much it. But years have passed since then. This crawl cuts out all the unnecessary information and boils everything down into 4 sentences that explain exactly what's going on at this time in the galaxy. Just read that description and imagine how pointless an entire movie covering those points would be. Sure, there'd be interesting bits and pieces, but we don't need a whole movie covering that. Some systems would declare intentions to leave the Republic, there'd be a bunch of arguing in the Senate, and a bunch of senators in back rooms would talk about the need for an army. In the end, nothing would be resolved and everybody would essentially be in the same position they were when the film started. That's the beauty of the opening crawl. We skip all that and head straight to where things can start to change. See, change is an important word here, because even though time passes within the galaxy, the biggest galaxy-changing events happen during times that we see. The big galaxy-changing events aren't relegated to the crawl. That is for the less important stuff. Now let's move to The Empire Strikes Back. This is where I noticed something that I thought was really interesting, and maybe you'll notice it right away too. Also, hey to the people that skipped to this point. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. It's a dark time for the rebellion. Although the Death Star has been destroyed, Imperial troops have driven the rebel forces from their hidden base and pursued them across the galaxy. Evading the dreaded Imperial Starfleet, a group of freedom fighters led by Luke Skywalker has established a new secret base on the remote ice world of Hoth. The evil Lord, Darth Vader, obsessed with finding young Skywalker, has dispatched thousands of remote probes into the far reaches of space. Okay, let's go through this sentence by sentence, because I want to really break this down, and maybe as I do this, you'll start to see what I was seeing. It is a dark time for the rebellion. Wow, so last time we saw them, they just won a huge victory. They destroyed the Death Star. They should be partying it up and having a great time. Although the Death Star has been destroyed, Imperial troops have driven the rebel forces from their hidden base and pursued them across the galaxy. Let's keep going to the next sentence. Evading the dreaded Imperial Starfleet, a group of freedom fighters led by Luke Skywalker has established a new secret base on the remote ice world of Hoth. So I must have never realized this before, but Hoth was a secondary base. It wasn't their main base of operations. They'd had their other base, they'd been chased off of it, and now they have to settle for crappy, cold Hoth. Does that sound familiar? Where have I seen that before? I could swear... Oh yeah, it's the entire plot of The Last Jedi. The plot of The Last Jedi is literally summed up in the crawl of The Empire Strikes Back. With the exception of the Canto Bight plot, Octo, and the killing of Snoke, 3 B plots that ultimately changed very little, this film is entirely summed up in that opening crawl of The Empire Strikes Back. And it's pretty much all unimportant bits. Remember when I talked about change? Yeah, this film changes nothing. If you don't see it, let me go through it a little more thoroughly with you. I've even got an awesome visual aid that I made. See, at the beginning of The Last Jedi, the rebel base has been found, and they have to abandon it. The entire film is them being pursued across the galaxy. Chase, chase, chase. They set up their new base on Crate, which is pretty much Hoth 2.0. It's a barren white planet. The Empire, or First Order in this case, finds them and attacks them with almost the same exact walkers we saw last time, and wins, so the rebels have to run again. Some B-plot stuff happens that's ultimately unimportant because it effectively changes nothing. Canto Bight literally accomplished nothing. Luke didn't teach Rey anything about using the Force. Luke came back only to die, so he's gone again. It's like he was never there. The biggest change is in the villain. Do you see what I'm talking about? See, I knew The Last Jedi was a combination knockoff of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. That's what everybody talks about. You take bits and pieces of The Empire Strikes Back, you take a little bit of Return of the Jedi, you mash them together, and you get this weird, ugly conglomeration of these two movies that's nowhere near as good as the originals. It's the same way that The Force Awakens took major points from A New Hope. But I didn't realize until I read the opening crawl just how bad it was. Most of the plot was stolen from the piece that wasn't even important enough to show us in The Empire Strikes Back. But Rian Johnson and Disney thought it was great enough to make an entire movie out of, and resort to insulting fans when we call it out. Honestly, at this point, it just makes me laugh. Anyways, with all the new Star Wars news coming out recently, the trailers for Rise of Skywalker, Darkseid Rey, which I'm convinced is a vision, I just wanted to throw this bit out there because I haven't seen anybody else talk about this. But hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe if you want to, maybe check out some of my other videos. If not, hey, no worries. Thanks for watching this far. I appreciate it. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Do you agree with me that it seems like The Last Jedi is just The Empire Strikes Back's opening crawl repurposed? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Have you noticed this before? Am I the last person to see this? Finally, thank you so much for watching my video. There are a billion other videos that you could have watched. That fact is not lost on me, so thank you so much. I am Fishers of Men, and I will talk to you later.